Blessings and welcome forward to Reasonings right here at the Trail Life. I'm your host, Talaku the Great Out. And this wonderful offering is a continuation on Love in a Loveless World. And, after talking to a couple of people and after having some personal experiences myself, I thought it apt to add this to the previous videos because while examining love in a loveless world, it dawned on me that, and through experience also, that I should examine love in a relationship or love in a loving relationship. Because as we had examined some of the tenets of what we call, what is psychologically and emotionally called love, is wrapped up in three stages of expression and experience. And psychologically and philosophically, the first stage is called filial love. And that is love like between friends or siblings. And then there is eros love. And eros love is more personal love, like love between a man and a woman, like foundation to which, you'll have a sexual relationship. And then there is unconditional love, some call agape, and that's a Greek term. And all these terminologies currently are Greek terminologies, but they refer to what is the differential spaces of the expression of love. So love in a loving relationship would be more, some would say, on the spectrum of conditional or personal, you know, intimate love. However, when we get into it, you'll realize that there's other levels to achieving love in a relationship, to have love in a loving relationship. And we'll go forward out of the preamble and go into the different aspects as I perceive it that makes love possible within a relationship. As we had looked at some of what I thought was my, you know, what I gleaned from my experiences of my early loving encounter are more like sometimes what we said infatuated encounters I had in my early years, and how the rejections or the hurts of that kind of shaped or even changed some of my perception. And over the years, I developed into a principle based love, and that principle actualizes in myself as my understanding of something that is authentic, something that is real and genuine, right? And you first have to achieve that state of genuineness to some degree to be able to maintain a loving relationship. So my preamble, I would say, is now at an end as we look at the different aspects, of love in a loving relationship. And I think the first place I would look at is attraction, right? Because we would have to be attracted to each other to some degree or to a great degree to then want to be in a loving, emotionally filling or fulfilling relationship. We would have to literally, to a great degree, be attracted to each other. Now, people might say they want a loving relationship. The question then has to be asked, if you actually want a loving relationship, let's look at it. If you want a loving relationship, do you go for understanding the individual in which you're interested in? Or do you go for understanding that individual's position in life? Do you seek for gratification in terms of maybe objects and the satisfaction that comes with objects? Do you go for attention? Do you go for what you need in your desire for a loving relationship? Or do you go with a loving state of being, offering without asking, without being asked rather, sharing without being shared with? Do you go from a state of love to then have or attract a loving relationship? Some people will obviously say, of course I go from a state of love, but a lot of people love things and they will conflate loving things to loving the individual who has provided those things for them. Because we must admit we're in a material reality in a lot of sense, and this material reality, what the Bible calls the world, dictates a lot of people's emotional and spiritual reaction to each other, and especially the opposite sex. Now in life, they always say the oldest profession on earth is prostitution, suggesting that having favors exchanged for sexual um, um, platitudes and gratification was a part of the foundation of this human world, right? That suggests that it is almost okay, as cultures might present it, to consider what one can offer you in a relationship and still conflate that to having a loving interest. So let's isolate the two. It is my opinion, you might not agree with me. I don't think when a woman or man says of the other, I appreciate you because of A, i.e., a position they have in life, if they are well endowed, and endowed means many, many areas, right? Are well gifted, and they are recognizing their attraction to that person is foundation, or it is impinged or grounded in the fact that this person is, well accomplished or extremely beautiful in the case of a woman. It is based on surface material objectification. And a lot of people say that won't be an issue because we're humans and we will have a career, we'll have a job, we'll have a talent, we'll have an interest, we'll have attraction, we'll be handsome, we'll be beautiful. So these things are a part of the appreciation of life. So fundamentally, let's put that down as a foundation stone. If that is the case, right, the dimensionalities of what achievements are will change over time. The beauty and the aspect of handsomeness will change over time. I'm not saying it will depreciate in the worst ways, but it will change, and I'm stressing change. There won't be a sameness. These changes will impact the psychological and the emotional well-being of the people who are now emotionally and intimately together. So 5 years ago, pardon me, or let's use a longer period of time. 8 to 10 years ago, it was okay. Her beauty could substantiate spending so much time with her, ignoring other aspects of your reality that needs time, that needs attention. Her, the sexual experience with her substantiates spending so much time, but that was 10 years ago. You are used to that sexual experience. You are now familiar with her beauty, and with the changes and the comforts now. Attraction isn't just cosmetic. The appearance rather isn't just cosmetic, right? Now you know the person, and you see them in moments where they haven't had a chance to put on their face or put on their favorite bodysuit. And so when things are based upon a conditional attraction, like because she's beautiful, he's handsome, they're well endowed, good job, good family, as we all say as humans. These are great foundations that most relationships to some degree are based on. And if we're honest with ourselves, like I said, those things change. So again, let's go back to the original paradigm. Are you looking for a loving relationship? Are you looking for a loving, fulfilling relationship? Are you looking for a relationship? A loving relationship don't have the kind of dictates in achievements and the perspective of that. It does have an underlying tenet. And what is that? It's a loving nature, and we can break loving natures down into principle. So we don't let people look superficial or superhuman. Loving people are principled people. Principles means that the unchangeable, immutable laws of nature are respected in these individuals, so they can maintain states of discipline, and so you can trust them because there is a constancy of certainty to their behavior. And what does that mean? It means that you can read them. Because I know many people watch my channel. It means you can read them. It means you can assess in a more fair manner their behaviors, right? You can assess their character. And so this fundamental principle in human behavior is called character. It's a characteristics of individual to have a certain trait of, are you quick to anger? in a situation where you haven't gotten your way or you are misrepresented? Are you quick to anger in a situation where you're in an intimate dispute? That is a characteristic, and I've had some of those traits, so I'm not playing smart, people. I never do, hallelujah. So these little character traits that we have, they are indicators to the kind of person we will be. Now, while others look at outcomes, we look at the input, the fundamental structures of what we call the template, right? The template of life might very much surprise you, because what you have as the blueprint of life will literally be the song sheet you follow. You're going to build from your foundation. So when people do not start relationship based upon principles, or they believe that principles are not important, right? Or they think that these things are just to be ignored, and then they go into these so-called relationships upon the idea that, oh, he's a good man because he's got a good job. She is a good woman because she's got a good job, or she's from a so-called good family, or she shares my religious views, or he shares my religious belief. These conflated simplifications, right, causes individual to ignore what modern people call the red flags, but I'm not calling them red flags just to trigger something negative, because the characteristics or the character of an individual signals also good things. It also signals the kind of personality and the kind of experiences that you'll have around this person. While you might see this person in a situation where they're working hard in a 9 to 5, and this man has not at this stage in his life achieved some kind of financial so-called independence, but you have noticed in this man the type of principle and nature and character that says he's a hard worker. He's conscientious in how he deals with his finances. He's conscientious in how he puts something down. He's not a whoremonger. He's not out there buying pleasure. I would say aggrandizing himself with every kind of pleasure or sensuosity there is. He has a good state of mind and a good state of consciousness. And because of this good state of mind and good state of consciousness, he's able to budget time and money and resources, right? This individual won't have a lackluster spirit, even in all the dimensions of the different personality. So you have principled individuals who are humble and calm, but they are not stupefied because of their calmness and because of their simplicity. A woman who chooses to be chastate, a woman who chooses to put the principle ahead of the sexual intercourse just because there's some kind of reward on offer, is building from principle. It's a Proverb 31 woman premise that, okay, life doesn't just get handed to you. If you want a good experience, you have to have that fundamental premise. So no matter how a person's bad behavior may appear to you as something that is good, their bad behavior is just their bad behavior. And you find that in relationships, when people do not have proper structures of respect or honor, you'll find that there's what we call the spiteful behavior. Now, this spiteful behavior is an unconscientious action by individuals who are close in relations and close in the life, right? And these individuals act in a manner contrary, right, to what we call good principles, respect, and honor. And they do that for a reason, right? So in male and female dynamic, it is called this controlled spiteful paradigm. It's like, let's use this for instance. Let's just say you're from a family who has been very violent, and many people have been hurt, and you get yourself involved with someone who previously appeared to you as if they are very calm spirited, right? And they come to learn about your family heritage, and every time in conversations with you, they choose to speak blatantly and explicitly in a manner to provoke or trigger your emotional hurts. And they call that their searching you out, or their need to be dominant, or their need to be heard. And so this interaction in close-knit relationships in all spectrum of unconditional, well, conditional or filial love, there's this fluctuation, there's this spitefulness. And people who say, she didn't do this, hence I am doing this. He didn't do this, hence I'm doing this. You find that it's a tit for tat. They want to get back at each other. And you ask yourself, is that loving relationship? People might say, I'm speaking philosophical, but we're not speaking philosophical here. The essence of it is that people are spiteful and believe that yet being spiteful, they will enjoy loving, cordial relationships. Life doesn't actualize or actuate that way. If it did, well, all those miserable people would be happy when they try to get people to go their way and people have not, right? They would be quite happy because everybody would just go their way and everybody would just be on the same page. But respect and dignity, it's based on principle. So for a loving relationship, you have to have a loving nature. And a loving nature is developed through principle. So one of the principled things is that if you're with someone, you want to know about the things that hurt that person, the thing that that person cares about, or specifically through observation, you would want to notice what brings an offense to that person. If you say you care about that person, you would not want to deliberately harm that person in speech, in behavior, in activity. But people are oftentimes so angry inside, and when they're in this space, they let out this darkness and they say, well, you are the one beside me, you have to accept it. Because it's like you're fighting the people you should be supporting and helping, right? But then that's what we do. And then say we want loving relationships. And so this is what I'm talking about. When people talk about the material structures, right? You have the pretend people will always talk about, well, she's from a good family. She goes to church and her brothers are successful. Her father was this. And they talk about all these things in chronological order. And she's careless. She's not trustworthy. She's angry. She's bitter. She's misogynistic, right? And these things are just somehow not recognized. And then you marry to that person, and then you find out they are double timing, triple timing you, triple teaming you with everybody in the hood, right? Down the road, cross the lane. And then you say, oh, it's just some psychological scars over time has played out this way. Well, there are many individuals on the earth that have psychological scars, but not everybody wear their scars as an excuse to be bitter, to be angry, and to be malicious to other people. So you have people in relationship trying to turn their current boyfriend or their current girlfriend into the previous girlfriend so they can continue the fight, so they can continue to defend or to feel empowered by their egos. You see? But when you want a loving relationship, you would see your mistakes because you would recognize it's not just about being right, because you are yet right and you can see the hurt in your partner. You are yet right and you can feel the hurt and pain in yourself because of the hurt in your partner. These things will not make sense to people who are selfish, self-centered, and a relationship to them is about what they can gain and talk about what position an individual occupies in society as if these are great foundational tenets. Now, true love is a completely different occasion. True love is based upon, yes, being authentic and having good principles, but there's something about it that has to be more than just the physical attraction that we need, the soul connection that we need, like we have to be interested in the person, right? So we have the physical, but we need the soul attraction. Like you got to have good conversation, you got to have things in common. But how would you find that person that you have these things in common with, that you can extrapolate and speak on for hours, feel empowered to do the greatest things? It starts with your authenticity. It starts with you becoming a loving person, but then there's a higher force, a higher presence, the presence of the Mashiach, the presence of the true and living God. Your faith has to be in your being. Your faith has to become a part of your behavior, a part of your choosing process, your process of activity. So when your faith is more than something external in you, something to believe in, but when your faith has become a way of life, this is a different understanding now, people, so pay attention. When your faith has become a way of life, that means that you're acting from principles. You see now when an error is created, you do not take it as a personal offense against your soul. You recognize the error, which is what the Bible calls sin. And sin is a contravenience of principle. So you're breaking the divine law. So if you're breaking the principle, you ought to correct the principle. So by correcting the bad things in your nature, in your activity, your character will change. By developing a faith and having that faith develop in you, you trust the Most High God to bring to you, some people call it the laws of attraction in the outer world, but you trust the Lord to bring a person into your life because it's the nature of your spirit that will resonate with the principles that is actualized as your way of life. So you and her will have things in common, believe me. There's no way you're going to be in love with somebody and you do not have things in common. Having things in common isn't the only fundamental premise, but having things in common suggests that you both have a loving nature. Because how are you going to be in love with each other if you do not already possess love or would have had a fundamental understanding of how love operates? Not just love of things, not just love of self, love of ego, love of being heard, but genuine love, which is to put the other ahead of yourself. And I know people have a problem with this principle, but it's not my principle divine. It is the principle, hallelujah, of the Most High. When you put yourself ahead as it relates to a relationship, that is a lack of trust. Because people say, I'm looking out for my interest. You look out for your interest as an individual. I'm just going to say that. And that's not only psychological, that's actually, hallelujah, factual. Now, if you're in a relationship, there's no individual. The Bible said two become one. And I'm not going to use somebody else's principle because I do not believe in their way of thinking. So don't even think I'm going to use it. And I will be, pardon me, and I will be of a heterogeneous nature and allow for the other point of view. So my heterogeneous nature teaches me that the feminine have a point of view that is not the masculine point of view. And if you're going to love and respect someone, you kind of have to love and respect that they have their own point of view. So it takes you to respect that. Understanding has to manifest within you to respect the woman for who she is. If you don't have that principle, then when she starts to express herself, you're going to have a problem as a man. And vice versa. When a man starts to express his nature of authority and the power to lead and to direct, then a woman that has insecurity issues are going to have a problem with herself because, well, sorry, with the relationship and a problem with him. But these things, again, I say, are improper understanding and an improper application of principle. People are more acting selfish than selfless. Now, if you put the other ahead of you and the other's principles, character, and behavior are the same, are similar to yours, then you know in this person that you see that this person looks out for your interest without you having to say to them, consider me, consider my feelings. You see that they look out for your interest. And I go back for the woman as a Proverbs 31, and you know that the father, the caregiver, you know, the Abrahamic faith is wrought with many references to what the principle of a good man is, right? To look out for his family, to build that foundation, right? But to have that principle, and that principle has to be love, to be tolerant, to be understanding, to be forgiving. So if you don't have certain principles and actualize them, you won't have love. You won't become loving and you won't be able to experience love. It's like Dostoevsky's dog in the gulag, that once the dog was kicked around by all of the inmates in the prison in Russia. The dog was pretty much abused. But Dostoevsky, when he was put into the prison, what he did was he was sympathetic to the dog. Right? The dog was healthy and happy, being battered by everybody else. But the moment Dostoevsky was kind to the dog, right, what happened? The next day he saw that the dog was limping, the dog was injured. The dog did not come to his company for the remainder of the time. The dog stuck by what it knew. It knew abuse, it knew discord, it knew pain and suffering. And so love was nowhere to be appreciated. Some people are so bitter, so angry, so dark, so malevolent. They want to destroy your life. They'll be like Lucifer and appear like they're loving, appear like they're kind, to curse your life. So if you're not able to read a person's character properly, you're going to be in trouble. True love don't act selfish because it is selfish and hurtful to inflict harm, whether knowingly or unknowingly, on someone that is so intimately connected to you. Why is it so hurtful? Or why is it so harmful? Because that person would have opened up to you. That's what love is. It's trust. The veils come down. Vulnerability in the nude presents itself. Not everybody is at the state of consciousness, male or female. I don't care how the warlocks are fighting because it don't stop me. It doesn't matter, male or female. Their state of consciousness will always actualize as outcomes. So when you are pretending, when you haven't dealt with the darkness within your soul, you will not attract loving relationship. You have to be clear about what you desire. Do you desire a relationship or do you desire love in a relationship? Do you desire a loving relationship? Love and loving is based upon principles. And these principles are actualized as behavior. So when a man and a woman loves each other, you could not want to hurt somebody, reject somebody that is so open to you, that would have veiled the world from themselves and open themselves to you. Some people, as I said, are not worthy to carry such precious gifts, male or female. But we live in a world that lovelessness is what governs, lust is what governs, sexual desire without commitment is what governs. Everybody wants to get an orgasm the quickest way possible without true love or commitment. And so, like, I've experienced myself on both spectrums, so I can say the loveless and the loving. And I can tell the loving sex is at the highest, hallelujah, vibration of all. And that is when you are loveless, when you're selfless, not loveless, when you're selfless, when you're not selfish and thinking about just your own pleasure, when you're thinking about an experience that both of you can have to the highest level. Yeah, when you pray, well, for me, when I pray for myself, I pray for my love, because I don't think there's a separation. I don't think it's my life, it's our life, right? And if I should do things to myself, it should hurt her. That's what I have observed, and at least that's what I would like to think I have observed, right? And be sure of that, because if I'm going forward with her, hallelujah, I should at least be sure of that, ain't it? Right? You can tell when you have had an argument with someone, and you can tell it hurts you deeply, even though, like I said, you were in the right. You're standing up for something that was actual, but the fact that you hurt the other person, it hurt you, and you were so shocked, you couldn't even deal with it. So a lot of relationships that are true love, they go through tests, Every relationship goes through, hallelujah, through tests. And remember, if you love someone, how would you really know if you love that person? If you're with the person all the time, there are going to be sparks flying. And, people say, well, I love that person. So, I calm that spark down. It's easy like to calm that spark down. But sometimes the sparks overburn and boom, let's say you don't know you love the person and you get into a big fight. Like, you think it's a loveless thing and you get into a big fight and, you go your own way and they go their own way. But you realize, I'm not talking about the kind of, I know people love to talk about this, the kind of emotional pain we feel from separation. So this is a psychological thing, right? So there's an emotional pain we do feel from separation. But I'm not talking about that. You recognize that within your character, within your emotional, spiritual space, something is missing when this person is not in your life. And for those of us who are of faith, who understand what faith is and have had a deep experience of faith, right? You'd realize that, let's say you have done something so bad, you feel ashamed and guilty, and you pull away from God. And that time you spend away from God in your conscience is eating you up, hallelujah, so bad, it's tearing you apart so much, even though you're trying to pretend. That kind of feeling that you just have to go back. It's not about you just have to go and confess. Now, when that feeling is like into a human connection, it's like in your soul that being without this person has so changed your life, not in a good way. And you recognize that being with that person changed your life, made your life worthwhile in so many good ways. It brought out the best in you and the worst. But the difference is the best in you was able to conquer the worst in you. They gave you space. And if you are that loving person, you gave that person space to be the worst of themselves. And if you can see them as the worst of themselves, and it don't change nothing about your feeling, hallelujah, then that would be an indication of love and not lust. Because your sense of, your sense of self, your very sense of self would have declared that to you. And so love, it's living, it's alive. The principles, I might have made them seem like they're like, you know, just some lifeless, but I did say they were eternal. The principles are alive. And when you approach forgiveness, when you have erred, to correct the mistakes you've made in an intimate space, you are growing to understand that you know that you're in a world of imperfection, a world of sin. So you could not expect of the other a perfect behavior. But love covers a multitude of sin. And this is how you would know it's love, because you would forgive. If you are clear that you are in the right, even if the other person has declared it to and apologized, that your rightness don't give you a power over the other person. It's like you take unto yourself their wrong and give them your right, so that peace, and there's absolution, there's resolution. People go through warfare in their marriages, in their committed relationship, and the world and its temptation will rip you apart if you're not careful. Even when you're not careful, it'll rip you apart. So what is the true conviction? Is it the house? Is it the car payments? Is it the kids going through college? Well, that's why you have a high divorce rate. Because those principles of, I would say, false principles of materialistic ideals, like seeing the kids through school, we got to stay married for the church, or, I'm the pastor, I'm the pastor's wife, I'm the bishop's wife, I am the professor's wife, or I'm the professor's husband. Whatever the issue, right? Right? To save faces, to live in a certain income class, a certain income bracket. When you live this way, ultimately the soul will show its worth, and the lack of love, the loveless relationship will manifest as divorce, breakups, and sometimes, sometimes it get even violent. God forbids. There's a lot of dark stuff that happens because of the disingenuous behavior. I would say lustful behaviors, when people mistake or conflate love to lust. I do believe that you should have that sexual, emotional, passionate connection with the opposite sex, with your partner, but at the same time, you need soul connection. Like I said, you need interest, you need things in common, you need a goal, a family, a dream, a vision, something to work on together, a shared vision that is not just being constructed just in the relationship, but it's like part of it comes in the heterogeneous, as I was saying, part of it comes constructed in her. Part of it comes constructed in you. And together, you build your relationship, which will become your family, will become your destiny. These principles actualize as loving nature. But when it's just about keeping up faces, keeping up with the Joneses, and you think you can turn that metal into gold, that alchemy, that manifestation alchemy, hallelujah. It's just a trick. It's just a trick. Just staying on the arm of Mr. Important because he's famous, that's just a trick. Lusting after this rich and powerful woman just because she's rich, come on. Illusions, illusions, illusions. If you want love, loving relationship, loving principles, actualize them, imbue them in yourself, believe in them, and guess what? We know we're not perfect. Newsflash. So that means that it's a trial and error. But remember, faith is important. So you have the passion, you have the soul connection, you have faith. So you can turn to the Lord, the Most High God, hallelujah, and Jesus Christ of Nazareth, Yeshua Mashiach, and you can say to the Most High, Father, I've erred, forgive me. You can pray for your relationship. You can pray that your mind be transformed, by the renewing of your spirit, right? You can give up such carnalities, right? And come to more loving behavior. You can learn forgiveness. You can learn some temperance, right? And I will be the first to say nothing happens overnight, but it starts with the desire and the interest, the will, the spirit to change, the spirit to undo what is done. And, in my case, I apologize, because whatever harms I've done in an intimate space, whether unknowingly or unknowingly, it's still harm. And as time grows, you get older, you learn that I wouldn't want that. Well, I don't want that being done to me, hallelujah. But when you love someone, doesn't matter if you're right, you know, you want them to be happy. It doesn't mean you throw right out the window. It means that in a case where an argument is going to grow, let love grow, let truth grow, let forgiveness grow. The truth is self-evident. And even if sometimes they are a bit into themselves to not say it to you, believe me, if there's love there and it grows the right way, like being nurtured, Not saying it's your responsibility, but it's both your responsibility if you're together and you nurture that love and it grows. That person will come to recognize. How I know? Because I know couples that have told their story of how they started out in the lustful quandary of this world and grew to love, hallelujah, each other because they had a principle beyond just their own selfish desires, egos and she-egos. They had a faith and they could go to the Most High because they truly have faith and they could go to the Most High, meaning they developed this true faith, I should say, and they have true faith and they could go to Hallelujah, the Most High, and say, Father, forgive me. You know, I knew not what I did, but I have sinned not just against you, but against the one I love. And forgive me that I teach me how to make right. So you look at your character, you look at your nature, your behaviors, and you look how to restrain them. And if that person, that partner truly loves you, you know, that love will grow for them to have tolerance and understanding and not be condescending, yeah, and lean over you to kind of press you, hallelujah, and oppress you, male or female, right? So if life was just about the, you know, surface everyday thing, then people wouldn't divorce and remarry and divorce and remarry and stay married, right? People wouldn't be together in their youthful days and then break apart and then get together in their 40s and stay together until, you know, death do them part. So, you know, we can have loving relationships, but we have to have love in relationships to have love in a loving relationship. So this has been Talaku the Great. Reasonings right here at Tree of Life. I pardon the distractions in the background. You know when I record at home, the essence. But I always say to people, I'm in the real world. So don't ever think that I'm not in the real world. So, you know, disorienting frequencies operate, but they really don't mean anything. So if you truly want that loving relationship, people, you have to actualize the principles. You have to actualize the behaviors, right? You have to be forgiving. You have to be kind. You have to be merciful. You can't be quick to judgment, to anger, to wrath. You know the fruits of the Spirit, right? You know love is loving, joyful, fulfilling, forgiving, merciful, kind, tolerant experience. It's a principle. And for those of us who are being tried and tested in the principle, well, it's still a principle, and we embody the principle. We actualize it. So we're not too big to say, I'm sorry, baby. You know what I mean? And yeah, hope this message gets to your heart, right? As we always say. And again, you know, remember you're a gift to yourself, to your community, to your love, to the one who's most intimately connected to you and to the experience of your life. Continue, fix the mic there, continue to be that loving gift that you are to yourself, to your community, to your environment, and to the love of your life. Blessings! Yeah, like, share, and subscribe to Tree Life Experience right here on Tree Life Television Network. Enough love.